Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Feng Shui Talks. We are on episode 6 and we're going to be talking all about decluttering and how decluttering is helping us embrace our next chapter. I have a special guest. I've got Heather Clark with us today to talk about this subject. She is a decluttering expert. And here she comes. I see the request. Perfect. Awesome. We're talking all about decluttering. So if you have any questions, if you're thinking about your own space, we would love to shed some light on those areas.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
So good. And I get so excited to see you because it's been like a year.
Honestly, yeah. I was going to say it has been way too long. Well, actually, I was saying to you earlier, I'm like, it's been a while since I've been on like a live show or anything. I'm like, I've been clearly in my little bubble for a while.
You know, as most of us really have been. And, part of me even wanting to start Feng Shui Talks is because we're all in our bubbles and wanting to have these conversations, because I know for myself and for you, like decluttering and looking at our space is so important to us, and sharing that is just like so much fun. So much more fun, I should say.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like you have, like when you bring your own and match it up with someone else's, like chatting about it, it just becomes so much bigger and so much more, I don't know, just ingrained into you. And you're like, okay, yes, this is awesome. I'm not the only one that's like this.
Definitely not. For those who are watching the replay and here with us live, we're both Canadians. We're both here in Canada. I was going to say Canada, New Brunswick. I'm in New Brunswick, Canada.
And I am in Ontario, Canada.
Exactly. So an hour difference. She's more like in the middle of Canada, and I'm over on the East Coast. So if you're trying to like pin our location, that's where we are. And we've connected multiple times in the past through a mutual friend. And we, like I said in the beginning, I just love when we meet up because we're very aligned in our message. And so I think that it's very complementary. I mean, decluttering is a major and crucial, important ingredient in feng shui in your space. So I'd love to hear more from yourself, though. What is decluttering from your perspective? I kind of know. I know.
You kind of know, but for the audience and anyone
totally
who's watching, yes.
Yeah.
So basically for me, it's removing or allowing things to move on that don't belong in your now and in the future sphere.
Yeah.
So whether that means, the physical stuff, whether that means the mental stuff, the emotional stuff, the spiritual stuff. Those are the 4 main things that I work with because of the fact that they all go hand in hand. And again, with the feng shui, that's the spiritual stuff, that's the mental stuff, that's the emotional stuff, and that's the physical stuff as well. So that's why the 2 of them combine so well, because, you've got to clear out the space that doesn't feel good to you, that doesn't, bring you joy, that doesn't, work with what you want your home to feel like.
That's right.
Yeah. So you clear that stuff out, you declutter it, and then you bring in, or you rearrange, or, repurpose what you already have that you do love and make it work in an energetic way to fit you and your family and, where you're going and stuff like that. And I kid you not, the energy that it does change is ridiculous.
It is so powerful. And we're entering into spring. We're kind of in that spring energy now, which is all about spring cleaning.
Yep.
I know in our home, we've got our clutter or decluttering gear ready to get out of our house. It's just like we're at that door. We're at that that next stage in our own lives. And I know that that is a very common feeling this time of the year when we're in that wood element of looking to be creative and expressive and really put ourselves out there. And often it's, looking at our space and clearing away what just no longer is necessary. It served its point. It served its purpose when we had it. We don't need to hold on to it anymore.
And that's the thing. So many people are like, oh, but I've had this for so long. I'm like, that's that's fine. Then honor the fact and thank it for, doing its purpose, doing its job, doing whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you've got to understand it. Do you still want it to clutter up your space a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Like, do you want to look back and go, oh, I really should have probably gotten rid of that 5 years ago. But, I still had, because we have sentimental value to a lot of our things.
Yeah.
It's the emotion we put towards it. So those are the things that are hard to get rid of. Like, you've got trash, you've got, garbage, this, that. It's not hard to get rid of that.
Right.
It's those things that, we've put that emotional attachment to that is harder to get rid of. That is, we make up a story of why we can't get rid of it.
Right.
But when we do finally like let go, and I'm not even saying like you have to throw it in the garbage. Like we just, so funny thing about the fact of spring coming and all that stuff. So my kids decided, hey, we want to switch rooms. So all three of us ended up rotating rooms.
Oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yeah. So it was quite entertaining that weekend because I'm like, why? But, we ended up doing it. My daughter, for her birthday that just passed, is getting a new loft bed. Okay. So we, disassembled her little bed and we just put it outside. So we're not keeping it because we know that something new's coming.
That's right.
And it actually ended up, somebody picked it up. So now that's been able to move on to somebody else. And we've had that bed for, oh goodness, gosh, I don't even know how many years. But it needed to move on from our space. She's getting something new. And now somebody else can, repurpose it for their own needs. And it's like changed the energy. Yeah.
So beautiful.
The energy that has changed in this house lately is just a little ridiculous.
Maybe this is why you're on live.
Yes.
Haven't been for a while.
But yeah, it's crazy. It was just like one of those spur of the moments that came out of my son's mouth. And then I just kind of looked at the kids and I'm like, we can if you want. Like, I don't mind. Like, I don't care where I'm sleeping as long as I'm sleeping, we kind of whatever. So of course, but the best part is my son's like, well, why don't you do this? I'm like, no, but it's better feng shui this way. And he's like, you and your feng shui.
Your feng shui. It's so funny. We had my daughter's girlfriend over to our house and like, we haven't had friends over in a year. Right.
Yep.
And she was over and Priya, the first thing she said was, does your mom feng shui too?
That's awesome.
Like, oh my gosh, probably not. She probably has no idea what this is. Maybe. Actually,
maybe
she does do it in her own way.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, so it's funny because like in your way, before I even knew about feng shui, I remember rearranging my rooms or my apartments or whatever constantly. Like you'd sit for about like maybe a month, maybe it might make it, to a month, and I remember my now ex-husband, but he would come home and he'd look and he'd like back up and he's like, message me when you're done. Because he's just like, I don't know what's going on here, but you do you kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny too. And you mentioned like we can end up, and I say this because we have a very similar experience. Like prior to feng shui entering into our lives, our home was constantly shifting, like consistently. It was when I learned feng shui that I was able to set up our home space in a way that felt so good to us intrinsically that it has not moved. Like the furniture has been the same for the past 6 months. That is monumental. The amount of time and energy that we've put into recreating our space. And it feels really good. It feels really aligned. And it's almost like, okay, we've got that foundation settled. Now we can move forward kind of thing. Instead of the sorting around, right? Now, do you think it's pretty fun that you guys have switched your bedrooms around? It
is. And it's funny because of the Bagua map, it also puts us, all three of us, in a different spot. So my son was in the relationships area. Now it's my daughter that's in there.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so my son's now in like the career / helpful people, because the way our grid goes, like one of the bedrooms is like half and half.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in the travel and helpful people and stuff like that. So.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Very cool.
So it's the funniest thing because even for me, like even, so my boyfriend that came over, he kind of looked and he's like, okay, so sleeping in this room is definitely different now. He's like, yeah, I feel the difference. I was like,
the difference.
Yeah.
And, and like, it's funny too, because really it all comes down to how it feels. I mean, at the end of the day, But I love that you bring up the Boggle map. And for those that are watching the replay and catching live, I've got a free copy of the Boggle map in my link in bio. So go there, check it out, print it off. I even have instructions with it on how to apply the Boggle map in your space to make it as simple and as easy as possible for yourself to really see those different areas of your home and the different energy centers and the energy that's being channeled into each of these areas, because it is so illuminating. It really is.
It honestly, ever since I got introduced to that, it's been like, okay, we're doing this. All right, so each room, all right, we're good. Even like desks, like the way that the kids' desks are set up, it's set up for them to succeed for what they're wanting at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And that's perfect. That really is. Now, what's really great about incorporating the Boggle map is when we're looking at clutter in our space, because, and this too, like, we be compassionate with ourselves. It is really great when we finally see the clutter in our space. And
well, and clutter happens to everyone. Like, we even have clutter here right now just because of the fact that we, like I said, we are moving, we're in transition. And that's when the clutter happens. You're in a transition of some sort. So don't feel bad if you have clutter. We all do. Even us experts.
We do. We all do. we all do. I was just talking about my garage. We've got clutter there. It's on its way out. We're not in any, and two, like, we're not in any rush or any hurry. We know it's on its way, and we're trusting in that, and that the energy is circulating and flowing, and the time is right. So, but when we see that clutter, what's really great is we can then look at the Boggle map, and here I'm going to be taking my own advice, looking at the Boggle map, and it will really start to tell a story and kind of put a little more perspective into why the clutter may be there and what you may want to do to shift the clutter as well. Because as soon as that clutter shifts, again, you mentioned earlier as well, that energy just really opens up and allows for that space, for that flow of new, fresh energy to enter, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, when you see the clutter and depending, like, using, like you were saying, using the Boggle map, like, if it's in certain areas, maybe even look at those areas of your life and do things need to shift in that, let alone in your home.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's crazy. And then do you need to let go of certain things or certain ideals that you have of that topic, whatever it is, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? Is there something that needs to go? Because I always say all four are hand in hand, but the easiest one to recognize is the physical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I certainly come from the perspective too, because I work with a lot of clients that are like, I'm uncertain about my career. I'm certain about where my path is going. And then, with even just that little piece of information and guidance, it helps to locate where in the home can we focus our time and our energy to really loosen things up and shift the energy there so that you will then experience that shift in your life as well. So that's what I find is so fascinating with the Boggle map is this incredible tool that can be used for any homeowner, any business owner. Like, this applies to everyone in any space, really. Even outside, it really is quite illuminating.
Well, I can't wait till like the ground thaws and we can bring stuff back out, like you were saying with spring. Like, Canadians are loving this time of the year because we have that, snow made, like, I have nothing on the ground right now. We'll see in about a month or so if it still goes on.
We wait and see.
We're in Canada. It decides to, like, okay, we'll give you one more dumping. But for the most part, we're all waiting for that, we can bring out our patio chairs and have that outdoor space and have that energy change yet again. So I'm looking forward to it beyond belief.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Allie, I had a comment. She says, I remove clutter basically only when it bothers me. That is wonderful. And I would even say too, even just to further that, is that when you get that irk or, something's bothering me, when you look at the Boggle map, and I know you're very familiar with it as well, Ellie, look at the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical components that's in that area as well, because odds are you're probably shifting in those areas, which is bringing that clutter to your attention too, which is just like So much fun. Again, so illuminating, so telling, really.
Yes. Well, and like I said, like, you know, don't be ashamed if you do have that clutter.
Right.
We all do. And I
Absolutely.
always say it's the, like, the clutter is the new meeting up with the old.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's that transition that's in between, and that's where the clutter comes. So you're having to let go of the old version of what you thought you wanted, what you thought you were, who you thought you were, what you thought you wanted in life, or whatever. And it's finally when you let go of that, you're leaving that room for that new to officially come into your life. And cleaning the space and cleaning all that energy and all that stuff allows it to come in. And that's what we're afraid of. I think people are afraid of that, the white space, as I call it, like if you have a
The empty
bookcase
space.
and yeah, the
Yeah.
empty space. Yeah. So I think like when you have a bookshelf and you have like, you know, a few books, but then there's space there. People want to fill the space. They want to fill it because that's just what we're used to. That's what we've been conditioned, you know, as consumerists, is to buy, fill your home with everything. It's like, no, be okay that there's that negative space, because that still allows the energy to flow better.
Absolutely. So I love that, because I'll often say too, like, just sit with it for 2 weeks. Like, don't add anything. Like, you're probably already like, oh, got to fill it with this, and this, and this. Let it sit for 2 weeks. Like, let that pass, that feeling, that initial like impulse to go with it, let it pass. And then start to look at what intentionally and consciously do I want to bring in to this area of my life, into this space. Oftentimes I'll say, if we've got a corner that we've cleared out, what if we put a plant there?
I love plants. Oh my gosh. Yes,
Because
plants.
it's so much easier to keep the space clean and clear and energized and activated, really, when
Well,
you
yeah,
have
because the plant
something living.
itself, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it prevents further clutter from coming into the space as well. So,
Yeah.
gosh, you look around my house, I've got plant.
Well, it's funny. Where I'm sitting right now is in the office, and so this is the one window that gets the most light in the
Yes.
winter. So I've got a bench just full of plants there, and then my desk, the kids' desk over there. Like, it's just, yeah, where I see it, there's probably about 20 plants.
That's awesome. But that's so great too that, are you working from home as
Yep.
well?
I've been at home since basically actually a year yesterday.
March. Oh yeah, I suppose. Oh great, we're on the year anniversary.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, LOL, yes, put a plant there. Yeah, exactly. Angela totally gets it too. Just put a plant there.
Yeah, and it makes an excuse of why, you know, I have to go buy more plants. You know, just there's an empty space there. I got to put a plant there.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, and of course, using plants to your own discretion.
Yes.
Adding plants brings in lots of live energy. So it's very activating, it's very energizing. So again, depending on the intention and vibe you're wishing to create in the space, you know,
don't forget about the plant either, because
if
you forget, don't forget about the plant, because if you forget about the plant and it starts dying, then if that area,
exactly. That's an excellent
it's a whole
point.
rolling thing. Yes,
it really is. Well, and that's it too. I find like it's a real beginner, and it's not a mistake or anything like that. But sometimes we get this urge, like we need to bring plants in, and we add in a lot of plants, and it can get a bit overwhelming at the same time, because that's a lot of care, a lot of maintenance as well.
Well, because you haven't gotten into that habit. Like, now that I'm in the habit, and also I have an app.
Right.
I have an app, and thank goodness for the app, because to water all the plants and to remember, wait, when did I water you again? Yeah, it just tells me. It gives me the notification, go water these plants. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. You know what is so fascinating was, I think on the last live that I did, I was talking with my good friend Lana, and she was saying that she actually waters her plants on the full moon and the new moon. So that's like her app. Or like her reminder.
That's actually kind of cool.
It's really cool. It's really interesting. And I mentioned this because I know that you're also really interested in astrology, and that's part of your life as well. So it's like, yeah, just embracing those natural cycles at the same time. It seems like a win-win-win, really. But
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And that, again, that's another energy change. And
it is. Yeah.
People feel, depending on those moon cycles too, the times to declutter. They just get these bursts.
Right.
They may not understand it, but it all is like energetic feel like, and that's like, you know, the whole spring, we're now tilting. So our days are becoming longer.
Yes.
So now we get that more energy and we're wanting, and we just went an hour ahead over here. So it totally messed with my mind yesterday. Let me just tell you that.
Today, I'm feeling it today.
Yeah, yesterday I felt it. I'm like, I need a nap. I'm out.
Nap.
Yeah.
I'm going to book in a nap.
I love my naps. I will say that. And it's also napping is a form of decluttering too, eh? Because it's your mental. Because when you have so much that is going on in your mind, going on, you can't, you're exhausted. Your body's exhausted, whatever. Yeah. You go have that nap and it's a reset. It's a decluttering of those thoughts, of those emotions. And you wake up and you're feeling refreshed from that most of the time. If you're still tired, then chances are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it kind of works similar to meditation, right? And it's just getting that mind to settle, to process all the shifts that have been taking place, right? Yeah. So very, very fascinating. I was wondering, what story, or do you have a story of a client or an instance where you've seen that dramatic shift or change happen? Now, you don't have to get into details for sure. I know confidentially is a huge part of what both of us do. But I'm wondering if you have any examples or stories, or even in your own life, that's created the shift and you've seen that tangible results, I guess, afterward.
Yep. So I had a local client so kids were growing up, going over to, you know, college, university, moving out of the house. They were wondering, do we sell the house? Do we do this? Do we do whatever, blah, 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 et cetera. So they were very much in the, what do we do? What if? So just kind of was like, well, you know, let's figure out like, what do you want to do?
Right.
And they're like, well, you know what, if I do that, then I want to clear this out. And then it turned into clearing just the one area, but ended up being like, I remember the one day I showed up that morning and I kind of looked out and I'm like, oh my, there was like 8 or 9 bags of garbage for the garbage. Like it was crazy. I was like, so what happened? Well, yeah. I'm like, so what happened here? And she's like, well, you open Pandora's box. And once you open Pandora's box, you can't stop until, she's like, it was just a constant, oh, but I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. What am I keeping this? Why have I kept this? And it was just all of a sudden, because day to day, never even paid attention to it. Once the focus got on it, it was, oh yeah, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. And it was funny because the shift in all of the family changed. Yeah. So even though the kids weren't even at home, they felt the shift every time they even talked to their parents, every time they whatever. And of course, you know, the in-between was quite entertaining because it was, you know, it's never lovely. It's never pretty, the in-between when you're actually doing the decluttering.
A little mad.
Yeah, everyone's like,
and
it's so funny.
Great things.
Yeah, everyone's trying to declutter. And then they're like, how is it messier when I'm decluttering? I'm like, because that's the process. No matter what you do, that is the process. But yeah, and it was just, and then afterwards, the amount of like space they had, the amount of like just the difference in them and the way they were approaching things. And the way that the kids were actually like, when they'd come home, they're like, whoa, this feels different. Like it was just change. Absolutely. And yeah, so it was just really funny though. Like I just remember like showing up and there was like 8 or 9 bags outside. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is new. And she's like, yeah. So I did a lot when you weren't here. I was like, that's okay. Because I always say, like, if you get that urge to do it, don't wait.
Do it.
Go with it.
Exactly.
Like so many of the people that I've talked to, they're like, well, you know, I wanted to. And I'm like, then do it.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're not. I'm like, it's okay that I'm not there.
You don't need me there.
I'm here if you need to talk, if you need to FaceTime, if you need to whatever. I'm like, but don't wait for our appointment. If you get that like urge, because it's your higher self giving you that push and that energy to get it done. Because you're going to be tired afterwards. I guarantee you.
As physical bodies, like the physical body might be a little more tired and need that rest after.
Well, because you're shifting all that energy and that definitely tires you out for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a change in that daily habit that we've created and we're conditioning ourselves for. So if it's new, it's going to take a little extra energy and that's okay. It's part of the process. Allow that time to rest, was it rest and digest what's
Yep.
been going on, and then be ready to come back out with a
Yep.
whole fresh energy and perspective, and like how wonderful that is.
Yep. Well, another thing is too, is when you do the physical stuff, obviously the mental and emotional, you're allowing that to come through as well. So don't be afraid of that stuff coming through. If you all of a sudden need to just let out a good cry, let it out.
That's right.
That's again, you're decluttering that stagnant energy that's been bottled up in yourself. So yeah, I always encourage. I'm like, listen, I used to be the type of person that is like, no, I can't cry right now. No, 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 no. And I'm like, now I'm like, nah, I'll cry in the middle of like a grocery store sometimes, just because it just comes to me, and I'm like, nah, it happens. I'm like, I'm just gonna let it do it, because if I just bottle it up, it's going to continue to clutter my insides and clutter myself, so that one of these days I get an explosion of it, and you don't want that. Because that's not fun.
That's not fun. That's a little more like day out kind of.
Yeah.
Still good for everyone that has these.
Yep. Again, I've had them.
Yeah. We're in Pisces energy, and Pisces is all about that emotional, spiritual, that intuitive energy. And so if you've ever felt, a block in that area, and maybe I use the word block a little carefully, but imbalanced. If there's an imbalance in that area and you're looking to bring more energy and attention and awareness to it, let's look at it. Let's allow for that little,
allow for it to come out. Yeah.
Let that moment. Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Well, I've absolutely loved this conversation. And there is another comment. Yes, declutter, and then the kids declutter. Absolutely.
And that's exactly it. Like, as much as we, try and tell the kids that they need to clean their rooms, and they learn from what you do. Exactly. And not only that, but when you're doing it, it does shift that energy to the point of they want to clean. And that's what happened with the kids and all of us changing our bedrooms. Like, my son just went into his closet and he's like, yeah, I haven't looked at any of this stuff, and tossed it into the grass. I was like, did you even know what was in there? No, I haven't looked at it since we moved here. So it's done. I was
Natural declutters.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny too, because the more that I've been decluttering, and of course I've been decluttering my whole life. Like, this is something that has been very much a part of how I process and work through life. And no doubt that's why I'm where I'm at. But our children have been following that example, and it's been really easy for them to let go of things, like when their time is up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very fascinating. And
I do two major ones with the kids.
You do two major ones. Okay.
So before their birthday and before Christmas.
Oh, yes. Right. Now we talked, that was it. The last time we talked was just before Christmas of 2019.
Yep.
Because I remember the conversation we had about allowing, yes. Oh, now I'm on that flow.
Sorry, I totally cut your flow off.
No, it's perfect. No, it really is perfect. But our children are so sensitive to energy, and often are much more sensitive to energy than we may even think. So just by doing the practice, it's showing them that energetic feeling that comes with it, and that sensation, which is attractive. So it makes it so much easier for them then to carry it out as well. And I think this is one of the best skills that we can give our children as mothers, as parents, in creating their future, and having that habit and that creation of, when something is no longer aligned or supporting you, that you can just kind of let it go, and that's okay.
Well, on top of the kids stuff and everything like that, there was a point where my son had actually, like, he was acting out at school, not normal for him.
Right.
I was like, okay, ended up getting in trouble from the teacher, this, that, whatever. It wasn't a huge deal or anything like that. It was unusual for him.
Yeah.
So I remember just saying, you know what, forget it. We're cleaning all the rooms. Like, this was a couple of years ago anyways, but we're cleaning all the rooms. We're doing all this. And after that, after he was able to clean and do the physical stuff, he came to me afterwards and talked about what was actually bothering him. So the best thing for the kids is they don't know and understand the emotions that are happening, especially if they're prepubescent, especially if they're really young, and, toddlers really, like, there's a reason why they go through temper tantrums, because they can't express to you what it is.
Right.
But if you allow them to physically do something to clear out, or at least to process it, then later on, like, and like I said, him and I had a conversation later on, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And he was fine. Yeah. And it's the funniest thing, because it's like, that's what I do. And I remember one of my friends who is a therapist, and she was a therapist for like troubled teens, like really troubled teens and stuff like that. And one of the things, if they started acting out, she's like, go clean your room.
Go clean your room. Oh, that's so funny, because sort of been saying to the kids lately too, like, we need to go clean your room. Because
it's, but it's because you probably pick up on that you can't express what you want, or you're not telling me. So everyone go clean their room. Yeah. We'll figure out what it is. Okay, maybe you can now process it and understand that, oh, this is actually what's bothering me. I thought it was this, but it's really this. Yeah. Yes. And now you can communicate and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I always say, like, and I always say to the kids, I'm like, cleaning your room is not, I'm not getting you in trouble, and you have to, it's not a punishment. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not a punishment. Yeah. It's so you can process whatever's happening internally. I'm like, why do you think I cleaned this? Or why do you think I, scrubbed the baseboards or something like that? It's because I know I need to process certain things.
Absolutely.
And doing something physical, and mine is cleaning. Some people is going to the gym. Some people is going for a run. Right. Whatever it is, it's that physical thing that allows the rest of it to come through. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm right with you on that as well. When there's something shifting in our home, in our life, I go to that. I go to our space, and I look for that to co-create the shift, this change, and embracing the next chapter that we're stepping into. And that's what it's all about. So,
well, especially in the past year, we've all been in our space.
Yes. I have a very strong feeling that April, May are going to be major months of decluttering, because we've been in our bubbles and processing. And I mean, I've looked at this as such a beautiful time to go inward to really see, what changes do I want to make or need to make to feel my best, right? And there'll be the time coming out where we're ready to let go and clear out a lot of the clutter.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we are changing, like as a individual, as a family unit, as the entire globe, we are changing. Everything. Yeah. Absolutely. So it will be definitely interesting to see how that turns out, because that's going to shift the energy. Yeah.
Yes, I so hear you. So speaking of that, what's going on with Declutter for Change? Have you got some new programs coming up?
Well, actually, so because I was going to say, because I have something very personal and very time consuming, I actually ended up taking a break for a bit, and I'm soon going to be relaunching the podcast. Because it's so funny, because so many people are still coming into the group from the podcast, and I'm like, and I went and checked the podcast. I'm like, oh, there's still a lot of people that are listening to this. Like, I didn't do it for a while because 2020 obviously had brought on so much stuff, and there's some stuff personally, whatever. And and I'm like, oh, so I need to relaunch this podcast. So I'm relaunching the podcast. I haven't picked an official date yet. I have to, I'm going to say probably around the May time, when I ended it last year. I'll probably start it this year. Right. Just give it a full year of it's been whatever, but so I'm doing, exactly. So I'm doing that, and then just taking if people individually come and, private messaging and stuff like that, I'm doing that one-on-one and stuff like that. But right now everything's just on pause because I'm going through, exactly.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited because you have such a beautiful gift and a way of helping others with their space. And I know in the past, so maybe you're not doing, I won't bring it up because you might be doing something totally different, but the bring your own clutter groups and
I'm still, that's going to be coming back. That will be coming back. It's just, I had to put a pause on that just for my own personal, because I'm getting a lot of paperwork done for legal purposes. Let's just put that out.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So it's just a matter of it will be coming back. I don't have an official date yet. I haven't sat down because I'm doing all the personal stuff first. And yeah, then other than that, yeah, that is definitely because I just enjoy that. Like doing the group decluttering has been so much fun for me, so much fun for the people. And it brings such a different energy together because, you know, you're here, you know, this is what you're going to do this time frame. Let's get it done. Okay, what did you get done? How can we help you? And if you have a breakdown in the middle of the thing, we've helped you then too. So,
yeah, that's
yes.
right. You're there. You're supported during the entire process. Well, and I know too, you're very strategic with how you put them together, you know, with allowing for time for break. And, you know, so it's a really gentle way to declutter and to not feel like you're alone. And I think right now it's a beautiful time too, because we are in our own little bubbles in a way. And I was reminded of that last evening that I was speaking to a woman who is in Ottawa, or in Quebec, and it's like full lockdown. And I think in Ontario, where you are, it might still be in full lockdown too. Or
no, we actually got out of lockdown. I was going to say, everyone's out of lockdown. Yes.
Oh,
we're in the red zone, as they call it.
Okay. So still, okay. Yeah.
So it's not truly open, but it's kind of, we're dipping our toe in the water.
Right. Okay. So this is perfect because everyone's at home wanting to declutter. I think it's perfect. Now the podcast name for those that are watching,
it is Declutter for Change podcast. Yep.
Perfect. Absolutely.
I made things pretty simple with a lot of this. So yeah.
Simple, the better. The ease.
Exactly.
I mean, that is all part of Feng Shui, is easing the process, simplifying things, simplifying your home for that flow of energy to enter. So, I mean, you're doing it. You're an expert, so you totally know what you're doing.
Well, and I only know what I'm doing because I've done it other ways before.
I hear you.
And I've decluttered those ways.
Decluttered those ways, exactly, into allowing that fresh new perspective. And I think that is exactly what we are ready for. As you know, as a collective in the world, in our communities, in our families, is ready for stepping into that next chapter. And in order to do so, we declutter. We clear out those things, people's thoughts, energy that just is no longer serving us. Thank it, wish it gratitude, and let it go. Right?
Yep. That's perfect. That's exactly it.
There's the process. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Yep. That's it. We're done. Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for coming on. Like I said, it's always so much fun when we meet up.
Well, and we could talk about this stuff for hours, I'm sure. Oh my goodness.
We could, and we will, but in like chunks.
Exactly. There you go. In chunks.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for popping on. And for everyone who's watching the replay, head over to Declutter for Change. There's lots coming up, lots of things, lots of resources to help you declutter your space as well. Check out the Declutter for Change podcast. I'm sure it's going to help inspire and help you with your decluttering efforts at home as well. So thank you, everyone. And those that are just popping on, I'm about to post the replay, so you can hop over to IGTV and you can see it there too. So bye, Heather.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.